Welcome to Battle Rankings Podcast. Today I'm joined by John Meier.
Hello.
And Chris Fretts. And we're going to be talking about GenCon. I'll start off with Chris Fretts. How was your GenCon?
Well, it kept me busy. It always does, because I am the organizer of the event. So there's lots of planning that goes into it, and then getting it all set up. And then with our three tournaments, I get to play in two of them and then run the third one. It's a busy weekend, but I enjoy it every time we do it.
And then did you see our sneak peek video?
I don't think so. No.
I had all the baby clips in it from all the interviews that I was sneaking around and grabbing.
Oh, okay.
I mean, you were there the entire time. It's nothing new information to you. I just didn't know if you saw that at all. There's a few lovely jokes and different things in there.
Sure.
John, how was your GenCon? I know I asked you this before, but
it went pretty good. I did a lot better than I expected, especially in mid-war and late war. I wasn't expecting to do very well in those, but I ended up doing decently. So my GenCon went very well.
So I told him when we did the sneak peek video that he wasn't allowed to talk a whole lot of details about the tournaments.
Okay.
So this is where we do the tell-all. So walk me through the planning and pre-GenCon, the chaos that I'm sure that was.
Sure. I mean, for me, planning for GenCon starts either late December or early January. That's when we have to submit our events. So as a club, we'll bat around the ideas of what we want to offer. I mean, it's always going to be three tournaments we run Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then what event games. Usually we're running Stalingrad, which is our long-term, we've been running it 10 years or so game. And this year we added in a new game that I guess we'll talk about later when we get to it. So there's putting all that together and then getting all the requests into GenCon, and there's a whole list of, we've got to ask for an HQ table, we've got to ask for Wednesday setup, we've got to ask to keep our tables all the way through. This year we did request to stay in the stadium. Last year, because GenCon was so later in the year, in September, it was during football season, so we couldn't be in the stadium, but we really like it there. So we made the request to be back there, and they did get us back there. And also then talk with them about our placement in the stadium, because last time we were there, we were in the way back in the stadium, so we didn't get much foot traffic. And so afterwards, I was talking with their events folks and said, we've got very interesting looking tables with lots of stuff going on them, and you put us all the way in the back, and what do you have up in the front? The game library. So you have a bunch of board games there, and you might be able to draw more people in if you have something interesting to draw them in, and so we were able to get them to do that. And then it's just a process through the winter months of back and forth with them, narrowing down the details and getting ready for the tickets to go on sale, which is about May 1st, I think. I can't remember the exact date, but that's when people can go ahead and put in wish lists for events. So there's a huge dump of ticket purchasing within like the first couple hours of the tickets going on sale. And our events game, our Stalingrad game, and our other one this year, sell out within 2 or 3 hours. So there's a big demand for it, and we enjoy running those, and we want to run those, but we really keep an eye on not overextending ourselves, because we want to put on stuff that we enjoy doing. We also want to have time to do our own stuff. So basically within the club, our club members, or some of our club members, will volunteer to be GMs or ringers for the tournament or things like that, and they'll get a free 4-day pass for 1 day of work essentially. And it's great. We've got several people who, Andrew Hobson, Joe Lewis, Scott Ernie, are all good at running tournaments. So it's great that we can put on all these events and nobody is stuck running a tournament the whole weekend. We all get a chance to play. So then it's starting to gather up the terrain. We are extremely fortunate that we have our local gaming store, Family Time Games here in Indianapolis, has made a big investment in supporting us. I think the shop has about 24, 25 tables worth of terrain that we can use. And they are very gracious in letting us haul it over to GenCon and set it up and use it. So that makes things really easy. We'll prep sort of each table in a box so that once we get over there on the Wednesday before GenCon starts, we have everything all ready to go and it's a fairly fast setup. And then we just move into the tournament itself with our first tournament and first event games on Thursday.
And how many years have you been running a GenCon tournament?
We started in 2010, and that was the first year we just ran the Stalingrad game because we had to kind of prove ourselves to GenCon that we could have a draw. And so 2011, we were able then to start running tournaments. And they really want you to fill the tables. So they want us to take a group of tables and take them through the whole weekend, and they want to keep a certain amount of ticket sales going on the tables. And it has been pre-COVID, we've always had a negotiation with them because their ideal is on their 5-foot by 8-foot tables to have 4 players on a table. And so for years, what we ended up having to do is putting 3 5-by-8 tables together, 24 feet, and putting 4 of our 4-by-6 playing areas on them. But in the past couple of years, due to COVID, they've allowed us to spread out a little more. So this year and last fall, we were able to have individual tables for players and people could move around, and that was really great. And we'll see if that continues.
And then you made a very wonderful slideshow for us. I'll pull that up.
Sure. Yeah, and I also do a bunch of, if you go to the Flames of War Facebook page and the Team Yankee Facebook page, you'll see a lot of some of these same photos as well as even more information, not only about the tournament in general, but on my games as well during the weekend.
Yeah. There was a lot of pictures and everything. Like that's honestly why I wasn't super worried about like trying to like include a bunch of stuff in the previous the video that I put out on Monday about GenCon, because I'm like, there's already so much stuff. I don't want to just like add in another thing that looks exactly the same, like the demo table, which was super cool to have, and I would love for you to talk about that a little bit later on. I saw some pictures of it, but at the same time, like there's already probably 5,000 pictures of that particular table. All right, so the pictures are up here.
Okay, just the beginning here. Just thanking all our sponsors. We do get a great deal of support from Battlefront in prize support, and we always appreciate that as well.
And that's awesome. They also contribute different things with Masters as well. They always are supportive of what we contribute to the hobby.
Yes, so this is the pile of stuff getting ready to go over to the stadium for setup. So this is 14 tables of terrain, the Stalingrad game, the World War II game, and various other supplies, as well as the prize support. I work, one of the things that it works well with me is my job is I am the technical director for a theater company in Indianapolis, and the theater happens to be just a couple blocks from the stadium. And so I'm used to putting on shows. I'm used to the logistics of pulling everything together and getting everything ready, and then loading in a show, doing the show, and then clearing the show out quickly and efficiently. And so one of the things we do is we get everything down to essentially 3 carts. And though this time it was quite hot the day we did it, it just makes sense easier to roll these carts with all the stuff down to the stadium to do our setup, as opposed to trying to coordinate some kind of vehicle and somehow get into the stadium. So just sort of an illustration of all the stuff that's involved in putting those tables together.
That does look like quite a bit of stuff.
It is. It is. So this is our gaming area. Our gaming area is these yellow tables. We were right in front of the entrance coming in. Behind us was a big D&D area. And then in the way back this year was the games library. But we really love the stadium because it's so much quieter than the general gaming hall, because there's so much room in there. There's lots of air. There's lots of light. It's fun to have the Jumbotron, which is kind of bleached out here in this photo, but it's running ads and shots of people and all kinds of stuff. So it's really kind of a fun addition to being at GenCon.
I'm a very distractible person, and I would see the Jumbotron change into like that's like bright. I think it was like that bright red flashing advertisement. Every single time it flashed, and I like caught the corner of my eye, I was like, "Wait, what's that?"
Yeah, I think on the day for the Team Yankee tournament, Andrew Hobson was running the tournament, and he was getting extremely bored because that day they were only running like 2 different ads. And so as he was sitting at the GM table watching the tournament go on, he would continually get distracted and say, "Oh, is it something new?" No, it was the same thing again.
And then John was kind of nodding in agreement with the stadium versus the general hall.
Yep, it's a lot quieter because last year's when we were in that right next to the hall where all the stores are, it was very loud and hard to talk to your opponent.
Yes,
we were just shouting at each other. Versus in the stadium, you can have a nice, quiet conversation and everybody can underhear each other. So.
Yeah. It's a little bit of a walk from the convention center itself, but it's about as far from our space to the vendor hall as it is from the vendor hall to where we might be in the convention center itself. I mean, it's a huge. I guess just briefly, we should probably, for those who might not know much about GenCon, but GenCon this year had 50,000 people, is what they're saying, show up. That is down. Pre-COVID, it was 70,000 people. There are 15,000 different events going on over the weekend, and they have over 500 vendors in the vendor hall. So it is enormous. It takes over downtown Indianapolis. It has been here since, I think, 2007 or 2008, and it's contracted through 2026. So it's the biggest convention that comes to Indianapolis, or the second biggest maybe. So it's quite an event. And for me, it's great because, as I said earlier, I work about 2 blocks from the convention center. So I have a parking place already there, and I get to sleep in my bed at night. So I'm very thankful that it's here in Indianapolis.
I guess to give reference to how big the vendor hall was, because I had a lot of time to go hang out at the vendor hall and spend John's money. To find different booths, you'd have to look up at the ceiling, knowing what the booth number is. So Family Time Games, their booth number was 1650.
Right.
So you have to look up, find the 1600 flag, go to that general area, and then like wander around in the general area of the 1600 flag.
Yeah.
And it went all the way up to like 2000 or something like that.
Yeah. No, it is enormous. It's certainly the vendor area is at least as big as the football field and probably a little bit bigger, and just chock full of booths. And they have maps everywhere. I think there's an app you can use to find things. I mean, the other thing about GenCon is their customer service is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
When you go to, I mean, they'll mail your tickets, but if you come up to the will call, it's 50,000 people. There's going to be a line, but that line just keeps moving. And, this year we were under requirements to wear masks, and there had to be proof of vaccination. So when you got there, you had to go through another line to get your wristband that signified that you had proved your vaccination. And even that went really, really fast. I mean, Andrew, on Sunday, which is the family day, for then there are lots of people who come. He sent me a video of people going through the line for the wristbands, and it was literally not stopping moving. People were walking at a clip through a serpentine line, and they just put enough customer service reps there to keep everything moving. So
yeah, it wasn't just one or two. There was what, like 10 just checking. It was great.
Yeah.
It was great.
They really have figured out how to do it right, which is great.
John had me, we went up on different days, so it was like, oh my gosh, are we gonna find parking? Am I gonna waiting in the lines, whatever. And it was seriously like no problem. The worst part was trying to find a parking spot,
mm-hmm.
which is impressive for a convention that size.
Yes. So this is our Stalingrad board. This is now in its about 10th year running. We built it early in our club's history. It was a joint effort of the entire club. We were able to make a deal with at the time JR Miniatures. I think all of these models now are part of Nova Studios line because JR has gone out of business. But we got all the pieces at a discount. They're all really nice, detailed resin pieces from a Stalingrad line. So there are a number of sort of recognizable buildings of it. And we carved and sculpted a foam table for it, and painted up forces. And so it's a club ownership. It lives in my garage in the off season. And we pull it out for GenCon every year, and it is always sold out. Every year we've been running it, and it's meant to be an intro game. We have 2 GMs who are helping. We originally started as a 4-on-4 game, and we found that was too big. People weren't active enough in it, so gradually over the years we have cut it down to now it is a 2-on-2 game. And each player has basically a unit of infantry, a unit of guns, and a unit of tanks, and there's some shared little bits of artillery, and we try and take them through the very basics of the game. And we don't use the standard point schedule for the game because we wanted to have something that was a more present sense of competition. So we treat it as kind of a capture the flag game. So we have 2 objectives on the German side, or 3 objectives German side, 2 objectives in the middle, and 3 objectives on the Soviet side. And if the Germans start their turn holding the German objectives, they get a point. If they hold one of the ones in the center, they get 2 points. If they hold one on their opponent's side, they get 5 points. And so we tally up the points every turn. So there's more of a sense of competition and a drive to get them to mix it up. And that's been really successful. We've gotten lots of good comments. This year we had 4 Soviet victories. We ran it 4 times. twice on Thursday, twice on Friday. And usually it's a little more evenly split between the two sides. But this year the Soviets swept to the weekend.
And that's a beautiful table. I genuinely appreciate the artwork that can be put into modeling games like Team Yankee and Flames of War. Just because you can be creative with it, you can. There's so many different techniques you can play with, and that table's beautiful.
Yeah, and it's a 4x8 table, and we have up in the far part, as we're looking at it right now, we sort of have the outskirts and the riverbed area, and then we get into the more built-up city area and train tracks and roads and all of that, and lots of snow.
But always lots of snow. You have to have snow and snow. Right?
Yes. Yeah. So, and this is one of the things, again, Battlefront's support for us. We were able to, each day amongst the 8 players who were participating that day, we were able to give one player a Hit the Beach set as a random drawing prize. And this was our winner the first day. I didn't get the picture of the guy the second day. But you can see our tables in the background as well.
And then the Hit the Beach set is one of the starter kits.
Yes. Yeah, and this is the game in action there. We provide everything for these players. All they have to do is show up. We've got all the counters, all the dice, all the templates. And as I say, we have two of our members in each session who take them through it. So the new game we started this year, based on the Kasserine and the Tobruk box sets, again, Battlefront donated to us one Kasserine and one Tobruk box to use, and we farmed out all the minis amongst our club members and had various people sign up to paint a platoon. So we ended up with, I think, about 12 members painting a unit each. And our idea on it was to, I've got a cat here also trying to get up on my lap right now. So maybe I'll let her come up as well. But we got this all together, and our basic idea was we were going to set up 2 tables on Saturday, and we were going to do 90-minute sessions. The Stalingrad is a 3.5-hour game. We were going to do 90-minute sessions that were going to be more sort of fast-paced and more superficial than the Stalingrad game, and see if we had an attraction on that. And we ran those 5 times a day, or 5 times that day. And those also proved to be very popular, and people seemed to have a real good time with it. We set up some little desert tables, little 4x4 tables to play, and again, had everything. And each table had one GM to take them through that event. And then the other thing we decided to do with it, at the end of the day, we did drawings and we gave away the box sets to 2 of the players. Unfortunately, I don't have a picture of them because we did it afterwards. And so far I've heard back from one of them. So one of them is going off to somebody, and I haven't heard from the second one. I'm going to give them a little bit longer, and then we'll do another drawing. But we thought this was a cool way to, get some new people started. And in fact, the one who won the Tobruk set and got in touch with me, it was a father and son who had come to play it, and I got an email back from them. They really enjoyed it and are really looking forward to playing more. So
definitely it's a draw for new players to be more acclimated, or people that are interested in the game but don't necessarily have the resources or want to invest the time in without they don't want to invest the time unless they're truly interested in keeping with it.
Right. And these starter sets are perfect. The price point is really low. I think the boxes are $60. And as you can have, you can see the Tobruk is in front of the Tobruk, and the Kasserine is in front of Kasserine. And, you and your buddy can have a forces to start out with. It comes with a rule book, it comes with some dice. They're really an excellent way. And I know they're coming out with the new Eastern Front book. There are starter sets coming out with that. There's also a Team Yankee starter set like this, which I wasn't even aware of, but Battlefront actually had these sets and the Team Yankee starter set in their booth this year, because Battlefront comes in their Gale Force 9 entity to GenCon, because GenCon is really about board games and role playing and Dungeons and Dragons and all of that. And so they're really pushing that stuff, and they really don't bring much of their Flame stuff to here, which is okay. But it's great this year that they brought some stuff, and I was talking with them at the booth on Sunday, and apparently they had some pretty good sales of this. So hopefully they'll continue bringing them.
Yeah, it was really fun talking to them, and it sounds like they have a lot planned in the coming months as well. That for players that of Team Yankee and Flames of War, that'd just be really interesting to keep an eye out what they come out with.
Yeah, so here you can see one of the games. This was, we actually ended up, in some cases, we had groups who wanted to play. So we had 2-on-2 here running just one of the boards. Same as with the tournaments, we just had a smaller terrain table for them to work with. So these are some of the tournament tables we had set up. Again, these came from our sponsor, Family Time Games. And we try to come up with a variety of layouts. One thing, and I'll just talk a minute about tables themselves. One thing we always try and do is create as much variety as we can in terms of directions of roads, having turns, mixing up terrain, so that there may be some long shots in there, but there's also a lot of cover and concealment. There are hidden places, and also looking for differences in terrain density between tables to tables, so that we have a variety of stuff.
And then what kind of draw do you get from across the nation for GenCon?
It really varies. I mean, we usually we certainly get a big contingent from the Midwest, since, I mean, the Midwest is really kind of a hotbed of Flames of War and Team Yankee. We get a lot of folks from Ohio, as with yourselves, from Cincinnati, from the middle of Ohio. This year, we actually got a very large contingent from Chicago, Milwaukee, which was great, because we have not seen them much. They started coming last year and had some really good players come from there. We had one person, I think, from Florida this year. We had Brian and Jake from Texas. Many times Charlie Clay from Arkansas. We also have another player who usually comes from California, at least one. We have one gentleman who basically only plays Flames of War at GenCon. And he's been coming, I think he has come to every single one of our tournaments. But he lives in an area where he doesn't have a whole lot of other people around him who play. And so he puts together an army, and he comes and plays every year, usually in multiple tournaments. This year he just played in one. We've had a couple of international players. So it's a real wide range. I mean, we had, let's see, I think across the tournaments, there were 28 different individuals who played. And they played about 45 different armies, because multiple people played in multiple tournaments, like John, who played in all three of them. I think we ended up with probably about 6 people who were completely new to us out of that field. And then many others were either people, at least I see regularly on the tournament scene, or people who have been to GenCon a number of times.
And then something that I know you mentioned several times throughout the tournaments was discussing terrain and how you're going to play it.
Oh, yes. I mean, I have a whole spiel at the beginning, and it always begins with, when you get to your table, talk to your opponent. Well, first, exchange your lists, Make sure you understand your list and your opponent's lists. And then second, talk about the table. It's just so important to take the time and go over, okay, how do you play a field? How do you play an orchard? How do you play line of sight? How do you, and just make sure that you're both on the same page when you start the game. Same is true for intents. In my opinion, Flames of War is a game of intents. We're not a simulation. We're not getting down to the millimeter of something. We are coming to an agreement with our opponent on, I think I am hull down and concealed on the hill. Do you think I'm hull down and concealed on the hill? And then we come to an agreement with that, and then we move on. And so that there are no surprises in that regard, that you don't get to your opponent and he says, well, I didn't think you were concealed there anyway, so now I'm going to shoot you. That's not the way most people play Flames of War, and that's not the way to get enjoyment out of playing Flames of War.
Yeah, it's a very fun game. I mean, obviously there's a level of competition, but it's always friendly competition. There's nothing to get hurt feelings about at the end of the day.
You're playing with toy soldiers.
Yeah.
And, hopefully having an enjoyable time. We're
Yeah.
Yeah, just, again, some more tables. There are a couple of screens. You can probably just shoot through them. We try and have some built-up tables, some more open tables. So this is actually for the Team Yankee tournament, prize support and trophies. Again, we get some very generous prize support from Battlefront, and then we do custom trophies every year. We do prizes for first, second, third, best opponent, and best army. Those are the awards that we will award, and then usually there are a couple of random giveaways as well as part of that.
And then your best opponent's basically the best sport.
Best sport, yes. Yeah, we do a different system than many, I guess. I can't remember where we got it, of course, from somebody else. But we at the end of the tournament, each player has 5 points to assign to their 3 opponents, and you have to give everybody at least 1 point. So you're either going to give somebody 3 and the other 2 1s, or you're going to give 2 2s and 1 1. But you have to make some decisions there, and I always stress that if you're giving someone a 1, it's not that you hate them. It's not that you had a horrible time. It's just that for whatever reason, you got a little more enjoyment out of that game or those 2. And that helps to spread the voting out a little bit and give us a more definitive winner then that way, as opposed to everybody just voting for their favorite opponent. So this is the results for the Mid-War tournament, which was one of the ones I played in and was able to win, which was kind of nice. And John, you can see, came in second. And we had a nice mixture of forces, as you can see. Several minor Axis forces, some Italians, some Soviets, at least one British list in this, and a wide variety of kinds of forces. And Svetlana, you played as well in this as our ringer. Yes. We brought you in as one of our GMs, and that's one of the positions that we always have in our events. We always have a ringer, because we don't want to giving people a bye. I mean, one, you're coming to play tournaments. Who really wants to take a bye? Maybe some people, but you don't want to have to force somebody to take a bye if nobody will. So we always have 2 people running each one of these events. We have a tournament organizer, which in the case of this was a Scott Ernie, who's one of our members, and this was his first big tournament to run. And then we have a ringer as well, who can jump in if we have an odd number. And in fact, we had a different person as a ringer on this to start with, and he began to feel ill after the first round. And Svetlana jumped in to carry on the second and the third round.
Yeah, and I had a good time with it. John, with his tournaments here in Ohio, we kind of do a similar thing to you, I guess, where usually he wants to play in the tournaments and he'll stand in as ringer if I can't go. But he'll usually bring me along. That way, if there's an odd number, he's like, "Hey, you want to come to the game store with me all day?" And if there's an odd number, I'll ring in. And honestly, a few years ago, when apparently I was like this close to making it to Masters because I rung in on so many tournaments. When realistically, I was just there to like be there, right? But yeah, it's all about just hanging out, and we have fun with it, and it's a good system. The two GM system really works well for, especially if you want the TO wants to play.
Yeah, and also, you know, even if they aren't, if the TO wants to go to the bathroom or get something to eat or you know, any of those things, having two people around to field questions and work on things. And one other thing that was interesting about GenCon this year is this, you know, this was last Thursday, and of course, last Thursday morning, the new Lessons from the Front came out, so we made the definite decision. We'd made the decision beforehand that after a certain point, if a new Lessons from the Front had not come out, that we were going to go with the existing one. And so this tournament was run under what is now the old Lessons from the Front. So there are several lists that are now illegal. I mean, much like I know one of John's lists. And I know ETC, the European Team Championships, which was also this past weekend, was operating under the same ruling because there was no way we could change on a dime like that.
John, do you want to talk about that? You mentioned it many times.
I've been helping the ETC guys build their list and get ready for an ETC tournament. I've been their punching bag, more so to say. That every time I was home, I was on Discord playing Tabletop Simulator with them to help them build their lists. And they were really worried about when the new Lessons from the Front would come out. And you know, luckily it came out when it did, because I think 3/4 of the lists that were submitted to ETC from all the nations are now technically legal for the new Lessons from the Front. That would change everybody's list, but good thing it didn't come out until like Thursday. That helped them out a lot.
Yeah, it was great actually that it came out the day of for us, because then there was no question. Had it come out a week before, I'm sure there might have been some people questioning, well, why can't we change it? Or, you know, but in this case, it was pretty cut and dried.
Well, you seemed excited to play your list.
Oh yeah, it was because it was the first time I was playing it and the last time I was going to be able to play it.
He knew what he was doing, and he's like, I want to do this while I can.
So day 2 was the Team Yankee tournament. And again, we had an interesting combination of lists. John did very well on this one. And the Israelis in general did very well on this one, taking first and second. You know, we again had a variety of lists, some interesting lists. And I don't have the points on for this one, but it was very close in terms of points. I mean, there was lots of tiebreaker stuff to be done, because I think especially Phil and Jacob, they went down to like the 4th tiebreaker to decide.
Yeah, because I played both of those guys. They were my second, third game, and every opponent I played against actually got a trophy for this. Because my first opponent got best painted, and my next 2 opponents got second and third. So
yep. So and also if you go onto the Flames of War and the Team Yankee Facebook pages and you find my postings for the each tournament, what I do with events I attend is I'll do a single post with a whole long thread, and especially when I'm running a tournament, the last thing in the post in every one I have posted the top 5 lists. So if anybody's interested in seeing what the lists actually are, search that, find the GenCon tournaments, and at the very end, you'll find not only a picture of the winners, but also their lists.
And that's
oh, go ahead.
That's always really cool. I appreciate that you do that just as somebody that's like still learning a lot about the game, but it also shows kind of like, well, what do some of these other players do?
Yeah, I enjoy putting all that together, and I think it's important to the game to put these out there so people can see, what lists are doing. For the late war was the one I ran, and there's even more information there in terms of the round by round matchups, what mission they were playing, what the results were. I think that's really important. I wish actually Battlefront would do a better job of covering their tournaments. Finally, with Historicon, they actually posted some pictures while the tournament was running, but we still, as far as I know, Historicon was 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, 2.5 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, those scores still haven't been reported to Battle Rankings. They finally got them up onto the Flames website, but I really wish they would step up their game in terms of reporting on things, because I think they would find that it increases sales. I mean, putting a winning, here's a list that does well, and people are going to look at that and say, hey, if I just add this, that's a good idea, and I'll go add this unit. But never seem to be able to get them to understand that it will be a help to them to devote the time to advance things.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so this is our late war tournament. It was the top 3 lists were all German. I think yours, John, was not from the Bulge book because you were using the 1/19th list, right, or 1/16th list.
Well, my main formation was the 1/16th, but I was using the Kittle formation. But
right.
The book I took for support was Bulge, but I took my main formation from the D-Day. Right. But you can't do that anymore. So.
And that's why that one, yeah. The other 2 lists I think were pure Bulge lists, if I'm not mistaken, Brian and Jacobs. And Jacobs was just enormous. He had 44, I think, half tracks in his list, and you played in the last round his list. And
I was tracking his list, and I would kill 10 to 15 half tracks, and then 10 to 15 more would show up, and then I'd kill those 10 to 15, and then 10 to 15 more would show up, and then eventually I had no half tracks left to take out his half tracks, and
yeah.
He ended up taking the victory there.
But Scott Ernie, the 4th place finisher, was actually tied for the lead along with you going into the last round. And this was a big jump for him. He's been doing very well. He's one of our local players, ran the mid-war tournament, and he was running a Vet Sherman list. As I say, he was the 3 of you were tied at 16 after 2 rounds. And he had to play Brian in the last round, and unfortunately, Vet Sherman's against Brian had 9 Panthers. Is that right?
Yep, all front armor 10. Ugh.
Yeah, all front armor 10, and that was just a little bit too much for the Vet Shermans. And then the 5th list was a commando list. Phil Gertler in mid-war played the British parachute, and this one he played commandos, and did very well in it. So again, a nice variety of lists.
Yeah, it's definitely some a variety of lists, and it really shows the diversity that you could pull from and how the different play styles can interact with them.
Mm-hmm. And this is the next couple pictures are the best Army winners. This is Luke Phillips, Hungarian motorized infantry for mid-war. He had a Tiger and 3 Martyrs supporting his infantry, and some Nimrods and some Saba armored cars. He's really an excellent painter. He's young. He's in college now, and one of our local players. And really puts a lot into painting his stuff, and it really comes out looking nice. It's a little hard to see in this, but there's a bunch of like CNC printed furniture pieces and other details on the bases that really give them a lot of life.
And then did he airbrush some of these?
I think so. Yeah. And this is Brengal Majewski's. I think I pronounced his name right. This is his East German T-72M. Is that right? Force. And he attended last year as well. And last year had a beautiful Iraqi force that was just amazing. And this certainly equaled it. There was a lot of interest in his Brandenburg gate in the back, which is actually a paper model that he found somewhere, but really did some excellent work. And the other nice thing is he really did a good job of differentiating the units so that you could actually tell which tanks belong to which platoon. But yeah, really, I mean, his was almost everyone voted for this Army.
I wouldn't even imagine that there's the gate was is a paper model.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's a really nice model. I'm not sure where he got it, but. And then in late war, this was Dan's son's SAS parachute unit. So this is the British Special Air Service with, he was using the FTP partisans, the French communist partisans. So he had one unit of the SAS and then 2 units of the partisans, and then was backed with TDs, 17-pounders, Crocs, AVREs, and some Stewarts, and a really effective list. It kind of stumbled at the very end. I think he had a loss. He was doing very well going through the first 2 rounds, but again, very beautifully painted stuff, very well themed. Had a nice display board, as you can see there. A really nice looking force.
I mean, I know we don't particularly judge best painted by the display boards, but I think they really do add a nice finishing touch to a well-painted army.
So this is just some of the gaming action here. This is the last round. You can see John there playing Jacob Meyer and their Masso half-track war. And then in the other photo, it's Brian Coaches, who is standing tall, and Scott, who is kind of bending over. Brian was the one who actually won the tournament, and Scott was the 4th place. So these are the first 4 top finishers at play. The other thing we've done for about half the time, I think we started about halfway through the 10 years, 11 years we've been running this. We started putting together a secondary competition, which was an Ironman, because we do have a lot of players who come and play in multiple tournaments. Some will come and play all 3. There's usually at least half a dozen players who play in all 3. So we thought, well, we should put together a competition for who gets the most victory points over the weekend. And so we have a special trophy for that, and Battlefront usually gives us a prize of size to reward that person for doing well in the tournament. It adds a little extra interest to the last day. Although in this case, the person who was in first place at the beginning in the morning had a pretty commanding lead going into it, and was able to keep that lead, and ended up with a grand total of 60 victory points over the 3 tournaments, which is very impressive. And I think the second place person was about 51 or 50 or somewhere in there. So it was a pretty sizable difference. And I don't know if you want to bring up the next and we can reveal. John Meier was our winner of the Ironman competition, finishing first, second, and third in the 3 tournaments. So, always on the stand at the end of the day. So it was a big victory for him. So congratulations, John, again.
Thank you. Yeah, I wasn't expecting to do as well in mid-war because I brought what I thought was a fun list with the new Italian tanks, and I thought they were gonna do me very badly, which they did. But they were so bad that everybody was focusing on trying to kill them that I was able to do the objectives and kill their formations because they were so focused on the 3 crappy Italian tanks that couldn't cross-check through woods that I was able to pull out some victories there. So my Italian tanks I have to thank for that. But, I think that helping in the mid-war was what kept me up in the points and doing well.
And who will be painting those?
Lana will be.
I'll be painting them with all the new paints I got.
Yep.
So that's basically it. That's the picture of the late war players, and a reminder that GenCon 2023 is coming up in less than a year now, and I'm sure we will be doing the same sort of slate of events, and we look forward to more people. We generally have 26 player slots for the tournaments. This year we were down, both because of cost of travel as well as certainly the mask and vaccination restrictions did keep some players away, which is unfortunate. But hopefully things will be better next summer and we can bring back more people, because we really enjoy putting it on.
All right. So what was the most unexpected thing that happened during the tournaments?
Oh gosh. I don't know. I don't have a quick answer to that. I don't think. I think everything went really well. It was yeah. I'm sorry. I don't have a good response to that.
Oh, no worries.
Do you have something, John?
The fact that my Italian tanks survived. Like I made at least 7 last stands with them through 3 games, and they helped me almost beat. Oh, they helped me beat Brian Coach because his Tiger was so focused on doing them that he forgot about the other objective because I was defending, and he forgot to move on to the other objective, which was almost completely open. But he was so focused on trying to take out my Italian tanks that he forgot about the other objective, and then it was too late when he tried to move on it.
I am definitely most surprised that I was even paired up against Brian Coaches. because like I had fun during that round, but at the same time, I was just like, this is definitely not going to be my game.
But Brian is a fun person to play.
It was definitely fun, but it was also like the letters were written on the wall from the start. Like, this will not go well.
Mhm.
Is there anything that you would like to add in before we close out?
I don't think so. No, I think I've sort of covered everything, and I really enjoy putting this event together and putting it on, and really I'm thankful for the club we have that can step up and put this all together, and our store is just great. Yeah, we'll do it again next year.
Anything for you, John?
Nope, I'm just happy with my results.
He's just happy his Italians did something.
Yeah.
All right. So like, subscribe, follow, hit all the fun buttons. And thank you for listening if you're still listening.
We're not quite at an hour yet, so that's good.
We're not quite at an hour yet, but at the same time, the YouTube algorithm values watch time. So I appreciate if you're still watching. And keep a lookout for more fun, entertaining, watching me interview people who know far more about Team Yankee and Flames of War. ETC just did happen. Nothing official yet, but the goal is to at least have some of the guys that were at ETC come on and talk about that. That's still.
And I don't think we mentioned it here, but they won. USA won the ETC this year
for the second year in a row.
No.
No, I thought
they have won twice, but it's not the second year in a row.
Okay, I thought it was
last year. I don't think so. I think last year was not a good year for Team USA, if I remember right.
Yeah, they told me Tim told me last place, but I think it was more like third to last, and they don't want to talk about last year.
Yeah, I think yeah. They'll be happy to talk about this year, and they did very well, and had a good run there. So yeah, I will also be interested in hearing all the stories.
So I do plan on trying to get at least some of them on. Hopefully, do a fun roundtable type of interview thing. Hopefully, Chris Fretts was in fact able to find out what happened at ETC and the team's adventures. And you could have too if you watched us live on Thursday on Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube. If you want to listen to Battle Rankings live in smaller increments, check out Live Bites, where I break down our lives into individual topics covered on the podcast. And then also maybe talking with some of your regional play groups, some of your regional clubs. So we'll probably have somebody from Able Company back on again. Either you, Chris, or somebody. We're figuring it out. But some more things planned that I think the viewers would be excited to hear about. So thank you, and have a good night, day, whenever you're listening.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks.
Thanks for joining.